Hello, guys, and welcome to our podcast English with Vlad. My name is Vlad, and let's talk today about the differences between American and British English and how it causes a lot of frustration. Recently, one of my students was completely confused when we were discussing the differences between British and American English. In that particular case, he was almost 100% sure that flat, the word flat, a noun, and the word apartment were similar words but with slight differences in meaning. He actually thought they referred to completely different kinds of accommodation. But essentially, it turned out these were just the differences in variants of English. So these were exactly the same words and meant exactly the same thing, just used in different variants of English. He has also faced this professionally in his work. He's an engineer, and he recently heard the technical term draft fan. He didn't know how to spell the word draft because, as we found out with him in the lesson, it is spelled very differently in British and American English. And when he finally learned the difference between, chips and crisps, right? And also fries and chips in both accents, he was totally lost. I can't even tell you how frustrated he was. He said, okay, my English learning journey is over. I can't take this anymore. All right. Now I completely understand his confusion and why he feels like this, But I want to reassure all of you, including my students, that when it comes to the differences between American and British English, you really have to remember three important points. Point number one, you have to keep learning. Sure, it's important to know these differences. That is exactly why I recently released a post in my community explaining the specific areas where these differences occur, along with some great examples. Just feel free to join our community and get access to that post. Just to outline this a bit for you, that the main areas are the vocabulary. As you can see, flat is British English, apartment, that's American English. Also, grammar. There are some grammar differences in both variants. Of course, spelling, how we write words, and accent for sure. So you can explore these areas in my community post. Point number two that you have to remember: context is the king. Context will always help you. You will almost never see these differences completely isolated, and you won't be challenged to quickly understand them out of nowhere. The situation, the sentence, and the context around that word will always give you the right meaning, okay? So don't worry too much about it. Don't be frustrated as my student. Context will help you when the time comes. And point number three, you have to remember: embrace these differences. Every time you notice them or realize there is a difference, embrace it and learn from it. Dive deeper. Ask AI to quickly explain the differences to you, or ask your tutor or teacher and see what comes up, see these differences. This is exactly what I do on an everyday basis, even for myself. I learn these things so that I can explain them clearly to you, okay? So instead of getting frustrated about it, embrace it and get fascinated about these differences, okay? It's a fact. These two variants of English exist, and there are differences, so we just have to learn them. That's it. I always say, follow your curiosity. I know that, for example, in Ukraine or any other country, school teachers usually focus on teaching the British accent. I have no idea why, but that's the fact. Most universities and most schools in, foreign countries, let's say, non-English speaking countries, they choose to teach British accent. And of course, it's not only about the pronunciation, but about all of those areas I mentioned above, So That's the fact. But very often, when a student asks those teachers, hey, but what about this word from American English? Teachers often dismiss it and don't want to explain those differences. Sometimes they don't know them, or sometimes they say it's unimportant. I think that's wrong. If you are curious to understand something, you should always follow that curiosity and learn from it, okay? So, whenever you see some of these differences, whenever you notice, double check it, go and check it in the dictionary, ask your ask AI about it, yeah, and so on. I remember when I was young, yeah, I didn't understand why on Windows computers you could choose different types of English: Australian English, American English, British English, and so on. And only a few years ago I realized that if you type things in British spelling, British English spelling, but your Microsoft Word computer or document is set to an American English keyboard by default, the software will underline those words in red, deeming them as mistakes, It is simply because your English by default is set to American. I always thought, why do they have these different accents there? English is English, right? But of course, the more you learn, the more you understand those differences. So the main idea I want to leave you with today is this. Don't be frustrated by all of these differences. Embrace them and keep learning them. Understand that context will always be there to help you out, okay? And whenever you encounter a difficult situation or some misunderstanding or a word that is different in both variants, don't let that discourage you. Embrace it and let it be a fun learning moment. Thank you so much, guys, for listening to this episode. My name is Vlad, and this is English with Vlad podcast. It is part of our community, so if you haven't joined our community yet, and if you haven't accessed that growing database vault of resources to help you master English, then join our community. I will drop the link below in the description to this episode, and I will see you in the community.